What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So, as you all know, the Boondocks is one of my favorite shows ever created in life. That show as a kid, I just thought it was just a funny show. That was just like, it was daring, it was bold, it took chances, it did things that other shows did not do and probably couldn't do because they weren't ran by black folks, right? Aaron Magruder developed a show that was brilliant. The social commentary on there regarding my community, the black community, and the messages that they had hidden within the show, it went over my head as a kid. But as an adult, all of these characters on this show make perfect sense. And I think a character that gets overlooked the most as just comedic value or just, a character just for shock is the character of Uncle Ruckus. Uncle Ruckus, for those who don't know, is a self-hating black man, right? He hates black people. He is dark. What his granddad calls him. He said, man, you black as Ace of Spade. Why you hate black folks so much? Why you love white people so much? Right? And then Ruckus goes on a spiel about how white folks are always happy. They're just always just so exuberant. They're always smiling. They seem to be just so jolly, etc., etc. But Uncle Ruckus, yeah, he's a man who hates black people. He despises black folks. He makes racist jokes about black people. He encourages violence against other black American people, right? And you just like, what the hell is wrong with this dude, right? He denigrates anything black owned, anything black ran. He even makes jokes about his own friends because he's really close with Robert Freeman, the granddad, but he belittles Robert Freeman's own grandchildren, makes fun of them, etc., calls them every name in the book, little African hooligan monkeys, all type of crazy stuff. But I think what gets lost in the sauce is that while he's exaggerated in ways, while he is over the top as a character, he represents a small segment of some older black Americans who are enraged at what has happened to black American people and what I guess the societal status that black Americans have been given, especially during the older times. They're so enraged that their anger becomes misdirected at other black American people rather than the white racist power structure. And I know some of y'all gonna say white racist power structure. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over words. I know some of y'all may say Ruckus never seems to be mad at what's going on to black people. How can you say that? It's not to a T. But I'm gonna give y'all a prime example. To me, Uncle Ruckus represents a lot of older black Americans who believe in respectability politics, right? A lot of older black people think like this. If you carry yourself a certain way, if you dress a certain way, if you walk a certain way, if you dress professional, if you, you keep a clean cut head with no locks on your hair, you don't have earrings in your ear, you don't have excessive amounts of jewelry on, if you talk the King's English, if you wear, a suit and a tie, that it will stop you from being a victim to white racism in America. That, hey, the police won't mess with you. You won't be looked at as a troublemaker. You will be deemed as an upright, upstanding black American if you don't talk with that slang, if you don't walk around listening to certain type of music, etc. They think everything will be fine and that, hey, you will be exempt from racism happening. And what happens with older black people who think that way, when things happen to other black Americans, there are a lot of them who tend to find certain things about that black American that led to their demise, their downfall. Well, maybe he was profiled by the police because, he listening to that type of music, his pants sagging, his hat is to the back or cocked. He got them earrings on. He wearing them Timberland boots. He wearing that starter jacket or he don't talk like he got some sense. He talking all type of stuff where you can't understand what he's saying. He talking slang. Rather than just saying, hey, listen, the police, they were wrong in it. They were absolutely, they crossed the line. They were prejudiced in their approach with that man. They would try to find everything in any way that the black man did something wrong in the way he presented himself as a way to say, hey, Maybe that's why maybe that's why the cop shot him. Maybe that's why the cop used excessive force, etc. There are black people, older black people, who think like this, which is why as I've gotten older, I began to notice the divide between younger black Americans. I'm not just saying my age. Black Americans my age. I'm 30, but I mean, even some black Americans who are 40 and 50 have a this experience some segregation from some of the elders who cling to respectability politics, right? If you think about it, look at Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was a man who was clean cut. He didn't curse in his comedy. He portrayed upstanding roles, and he showed upstanding black American people on TV. He presented an extremely positive image of black folks. And he felt like everybody should be presenting those images. And if you weren't not living like that in your everyday life, if you weren't presenting those images forth, that you're doing yourself a disservice, and maybe that's why you're judged wrong by some of these white racist power structures. Now, he didn't say that, but he would say, well, maybe the police shot you because you took in the pound cake speech. He talked about that in particular. I remember watching that speech Bill Cosby gave after me falling in love with the Cosby Show, because there was this black show that showed black people in prominent places and prominent positions. And indirectly, I didn't understand that also my love was, so strong for that show, because the problems around the show, while it was an extremely black show, it was black for sure. They didn't have money was not the root of their problems, right? While I love that show and everything like that, I remember watching him get a pound cake speech, and a jolt over my body. It was an uncomfortable feeling came across me when I saw him denigrating how black people name their children. Black people sagging their pants. They talking in that hip hop slang and talking like you ain't got no sense. You can't understand them. They talking all this slang, talking like this, denigrating black folks for the culture within our communities, while white folks are clapping and applauding in the audience, right? And while Bill Cosby is not Uncle Ruckus, certain segments, I believe, of Uncle Ruckus's character can be drawn to the older generation who believes in respectability politics. Look at the things that Uncle Ruckus criticizes black people for. White folks, they listen to civilized music, etc. Black folks listen to that African jungle music, right? Where you can't understand what they're saying. Their pants off the butt, white folks go to school and become esteemed, get jobs. Black folks join fraternities and all that, like as if white folks don't join fraternities either. He starts talking about black folks just killing each other, woo woo, and no wonder the white man see it like this and like that. I'm paraphrasing, but look at the type of things that the way the prism he views black American people in, right? And I think this leads to certain conversations I had. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. But things like that respectability politics that he holds on to has put him in a state where he has developed Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you empathize with your oppressor. But he doesn't empathize with them. Uncle Ruckus admires them. He takes it a step further. He admires them. He worships them. He praises them. He's envious of them. He seeks to be them. And is due in part to the fact that he recognizes, he doesn't acknowledge it. He acts like, black people are the causes of all their problems. But he recognizes that black people are treated as second-class citizens in America. So he wants to separate himself from black folks so much that he wants to be a part of the society. He wants to be part of the population who is treated, more fairly than anybody, white American people. And so he assimilates to their beliefs, to their ideals, to everything that they talk of, that they preach and they practice. He assimilates to all of those things because he recognizes, in a way, and again, internally, he doesn't vocalize it. He recognizes they are treated best of everybody. And he recognizes that black people are treated and disrespected. And so instead of empathizing with black people, he turns his back on black folks and assimilates to the beliefs of black American people that the white majority have. right? And you can see these things. And again, I'm not trying to be crazy. There are many black immigrants who come to America who look at black folks as less than. And hey, everything that's happening to black folks is y'all problem, is your issue. Look at the white man, he doing this and all of that. Look, and they start to take on some of those ideologies of racist white American people. Uncle Ruckus he's a depiction, a segment of those people, but he is taking it a step further. You know what I mean? He's taking it a step further. Ruckus does not empathize with black people, but he's recognized that, hey, my people ain't treated well. I want to be over there with them. And he starts to belittle, and he begins to take this stance where he just hates everything black because he knows that, hey, nothing really, the best in society does not really come to black folks. So he wants to separate himself as best as possible. And he has convinced himself that, hey, even so much that he's convinced himself, well, in the story about, I forgot what it was, the episode called. It was a story about Uncle Ruckus's life. His mother, and he came from a family, a mother who believed that, hey, well, his father hated white people, but he denigrated black folks. His mother was a black woman who was wanting to be a white woman. So that was passed down and trickled down to him. It reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother was from rural Mississippi. And she told me that my grandmother made she was a part of the group of black people who made that great migration from the South to the North. Chicago was not north, but it's not the North, but it's north of Mississippi. So they called it the North. A lot of segment of black American people came from the South and moved north for better opportunities. My grandmother and my grandfather were some of those black people, came from Waynesboro, Mississippi, moved to Chicago, Illinois, and experienced greater opportunity, etc. Right? But my grandmother told me when I was, when she was alive, God rest her soul, that there were older black people in Mississippi who still had a fear of white people, who still would put their head down when white people were talking to them, who wouldn't really look white people in the eye, who felt like the white people were the big bad wolf. Not because we all acknowledge that that there are things done to black American people by racist white Americans, and we recognize the oppression that our people have been under. But there are black people, she was saying there are older black people in the South who live in fear daily of them. So much so that they start to assimilate to some of those beliefs themselves. My grandmother told me of black folks like this, right? Acting as if we're still in Jim Crow times. And so Uncle Ruckus probably, I'm thinking of like black folks who are like that. Yeah, he's a branch off of that tree in a way. But he's just taking it a step further. He, the Boondocks is just such a great show. Like, just all the characters. I'm stuttering right now. I'm sorry, because I'm going off the top. I made a video breaking down like the different characters and why the show is so great before. But yeah, man, Huey Freeman, the main character, represents a segment of black Americans who speak the truth. And they are ignored, they're hated for it, or they're labeled as crazy. So many black folks talk certain things and speak truth to power, but they've been ignored or deemed as crazy until recent times where certain stuff started to come about. Even me as a young man, and this is when I didn't understand things, I used to think that people like Malcolm X and them were too extreme. Even though I'm named after that black man. I thought this when I was in elementary school. Because I wasn't really, you weren't reading, you weren't taught, I wasn't awakened. I wasn't conscious at that time. I have knowledge of self, but I developed knowledge of self from my parents, from my uncles, from me doing my own readings, my own research, etc. You start to align yourself with a lot of the things that they were saying. You feel like, yo, this is really, really truthful, right? But yeah, this show does such a great job at delivering social commentary in the most hilarious way. You know what I mean? Even sometimes it can be over the top, but it's accurate depictions of certain people in America. Seriously, is people like Uncle Ruckus really out here who just believe it's all black folks' problem. There's everything going on in the world. Look at Jason Whitlock. Uncle Ruckus is a more extreme version of him because Jason Whitlock just doesn't go on TV and say hang that N-word, but he tries to figure out a way where when something happens to a black person, he wants to figure out a way where the blame can be taken off the establishment, can be taken off law enforcement. The blame can be put on the black American. Well, did he ever do drugs before? Did he get good grades in school? Yeah, did he have his pants sagging? Did he, what type of music was he listening to? Did he look like a thug in some type of way? Did he talk with slang? Did he talk to kings? Like Justin Whitlock would always look for reasons to why bad things happen to black folks, instead of it being clearly what it really was, racism. He would try to act like he would try to look at racism, overlook it in any situation where racism was clearly playing a part in the situation. So yeah, it could be, yeah, Jason, you see that in Jason Whitlock in certain ways, and other black folks out here who are, labeled as conservative black American people. Yeah, you see it. But yeah, Uncle Ruckus represents the black people who play into respectability politics. And again, they develop Stockholm syndrome. They believe that the white man is just doing everything right and black people are just despicable. Uncle Ruckus, that is a truth of a lot of some black American people and black immigrants as well. Uncle Ruckus out of line, ain't nothing wrong. He said color folks talking about slavery. No, color folks talking about save me. Wasn't nothing wrong with slavery. At least we had good food back then. White man show could be your friend. As crazy as those lyrics sound, there's people who really, really resonate with that stuff. Older, but yeah, like they just always look for a way. And when Bill Cosby was coming off like that, talking about black folks' names and how we don't talk the King's English and listening to that hip hop music we listening to, and you steal a loaf of bread, you deserve to get shot by the police. You steal some pound cake, you deserve to get shot and gunned down good on the police officer for shooting them for stealing a pound cake. When we like, yo, Bill, nobody deserves to get killed for stealing a piece of cake, brother. That's way too extreme. But in certain ways, Bill has bought into respectability politics and bought into, hey, black folks, we are our own problem. Nothing is going on out here. While he has been playing into respectability politics his whole life. And in the same time, because he did both great things for black folks and segments of harm. He put black folks on TV in positive light and made us look good on television. But he also went and said, if you're not like me and living like me and talking like me and carrying yourself like me, if you're not clean and not cursing on television, you're a bad black American man and you're a bad person for people to follow and look up to. When lo and behold, now I don't believe he was out there raping R-word and all of the women like that. But I think where some fire is, where there is some fire, where there is some smoke, there is some fire. And I believe Bill was engaged in a lot of things he shouldn't have been doing at that time, but making it seem like he was living his perfect life while denigrating other black people for certain things that they were doing. And so, yeah, it just all the respectability politics play into this, play into that. And if you don't, you're a bad black man. And some of this is all you Negroes' fault for how this stuff going on, instead of looking like, hey, no, man. We are being oppressed. This is a white racist power structure out here that is really out here holding down black folks for real. And